What happens when a genius scientist tries to fix his own flawed body with reptile DNA? A failed experiment turned the kind-hearted doctor into a cold-blooded monster who wants to evolve all of humanity. The story begins with a young boy named Peter Parker, who is playing hide-and-seek in his house. While hiding, he accidentally stumbles into his father's study. As soon as he steps inside, he notices something strange. The entire room is a mess, as if someone had been searching for something. Confused and frightened, Peter calls for his father. His father, Richard Parker, rushes into the room. He is a scientist, and the moment he sees the state of the room, he understands immediately that someone is trying to find his secret documents. Richard quickly checks a hidden cabinet to ensure the files are still there, and fortunately they are. But this only makes things worse. And he realizes that whoever came looking for it will surely return. Knowing this place is no longer safe, he makes a sudden decision. He takes Peter and his wife away immediately, dropping Peter off at the home of Uncle Ben and Aunt May. There, Richard tells Peter that he will have to stay with them for a few days, and promises to return for him soon. Peter pleads to go with his parents, but Richard refuses. A few minutes later, Peter helplessly watches his parents leave, unaware that it would be the last time he would see them. Many years later, Peter has grown into a high school student. He is a quiet, intelligent kid who loves science and has a passion for photography, but his shy nature makes him an easy target for bullying, especially from a guy named Flash, who constantly harasses him. One day, while Peter is taking photos outside, he notices Flash bullying another student. Feeling indignant, Peter intervenes and tells Flash to stop. Instead, Flash mocks him and demands that Peter take photos for him. When Peter refuses, Flash becomes enraged and begins to beat him. Just then, a girl named Gwen Stacy steps in and stops the brawl. She tells Flash to back down and reminds everyone that class is about to start. Later, Gwen talks to Peter and tells him that what he did was brave, but also a bit reckless. When Peter returns home, Aunt May notices his injuries and asks what happened. Peter lies, saying he fell while skateboarding. Afterward, Uncle Ben takes Peter down to the basement to help him fix a broken freezer. While helping, Peter discovers an old bag, something he remembers from his childhood. It belonged to his father. Curious, Peter takes it upstairs and begins to examine it. Seeing the bag brings back painful memories, especially since he believes his parents died in a plane crash. Uncle Ben explains that Richard asked him to keep the bag safe. He even shares a small story, how Richard bought that bag from a shop owned by Peter's mother, and that was actually where they first met. Peter feels like there is nothing special about the bag, but something still feels off. Aunt May tells him that his father was a very private man. He never shared everything, even with those closest to him. As Peter continues to search through the bag, he finds an old photograph of his father standing next to another man. When he asks about it, Uncle Ben says the man's name is Curt Connors, his father's former partner, but admits he doesn't know much more than that. That night, alone in his room, Peter carefully examines everything inside the bag. And he finds his father's glasses and tries them on, recalling the last words his father said before leaving. As he continues to search, he discovers something hidden, a secret compartment inside which is the same mysterious file his father had protected years ago. When Peter opens it, he finds a complex formula labeled as the decay rate algorithm. He doesn't fully understand it, but he knows it is important. Just then, Uncle Ben knocks on the door and Peter quickly hides the file. Ben walks in, smiles, and tells Peter that wearing those glasses, he looks exactly like his father. He gently reminds Peter that he understands the feeling of growing up without parents. Then, before leaving, he tells Peter one last thing, that Curt Connors and his father were very close. But after Richard disappeared, Connors never reached out again, which always felt strange. And with that deepening mystery, Peter's journey is about to begin. Peter finds everything extremely strange, so he begins to dig into the past, trying to learn more about his father, Richard Parker, and Dr. Curt Connors. After some research, he discovers that both of them were working on a groundbreaking project. Their goal was to combine the DNA of different species to create a world where human flaws could be eliminated. But after Richard Parker's death, that dream was abandoned. Meanwhile, Curt Connors is still continuing similar research at Oscorp Corporation, determined to find the truth. Peter decides to go to Oscorp. He sneaks inside by blending in with a group of college students. While exploring, he suddenly notices a shocking thing. Gwen Stacy is actually working there as Dr. Connors' assistant. Not wanting to be spotted, Peter tries to stay out of sight as Gwen leads the group forward. Peter accidentally bumps into a man named Rajit Ratha, causing him to drop his files. As Peter helps pick them up, he notices a familiar symbol, exactly the symbol from his father's secret file. Curious, Peter secretly follows him. Rajit enters a restricted biocable development lab, speaks briefly with someone, then leaves. Taking advantage of that moment, Peter sneaks inside the lab. And there he sees an incredible thing, machines producing bioengineered spider silk. When he reaches out to touch one of the silk strands, the system suddenly shuts down and dozens of genetically modified spiders begin crawling all over him. Panicked, Peter quickly brushes them off and escapes. At the same time, Dr. Connors is talking to Rajit Ratha. He explains that they still haven't solved the decay rate algorithm, which is preventing them from successfully combining genetic structures. Without it, their entire project is at a standstill. Brigitte pressures him, saying they are running out of time because Norman Osborn, the founder of Oscorp, is dying. This news puts Connors under immense pressure. As Peter tries to leave the building, Gwen recognizes him and they talk briefly, but suddenly one of the modified spiders bites Peter, and the pain hits immediately, leaving Peter confused and shaking as he heads home on the subway. A group of people begins to harass him, but something strange starts to happen. The spider bite is changing him. His strength increases rapidly, his reflexes become sharp, and without realizing it, he begins to fight back with incredible power. Terrified and confused, Peter runs home. Even there, his behavior becomes unusual. His aunt and uncle notice something is wrong. He grabs food from the fridge and rushes to his room. That's when he sees the dead spider on his neck, the very one that bit him. At that moment, Peter realizes this is the cause of everything. The next morning, the changes become even more intense. He accidentally breaks objects just by touching them. When he goes into the bathroom, even the faucet breaks under his grip. And he begins to panic. Then he notices something even stranger. He can hear the smallest movements, even the tiny creatures around him. His hands and feet begin to stick to surfaces, allowing him to climb walls. Trying to understand what is happening, Peter goes back to his father's files and studies the decay rate algorithm. He also reads Dr. Connors' research books to connect the pieces. Finally, he decides to meet Connors in person. He visits his house, but Connors is surprised and tells him this isn't his office, it's his home. Peter reveals the truth that he is Richard Parker's son. Hearing this shocks Connors. He immediately invites Peter inside. Peter tells him that he has read his work and admires it. Connors explains how their research was once mocked. People called them mad scientists for trying to combine species. But everything changed when Richard created those genetically modified spiders. Their results were revolutionary. They could change millions of lives, including Connors' own. But after Richard's sudden death, everything fell apart. Peter then asks a deeper question. If two species are combined, how much of the foreign DNA can take over a human body, and what side effects might occur? Connors admits that it is unpredictable. All test subjects have died, and the biggest problem has always been the missing piece, the decay rate algorithm. Just then, Peter writes the exact formula on a nearby piece of paper. Connors is stunned. He asks Peter how he calculated it. Peter simply replies, "I calculated it in my head." Realizing Peter's brilliance, Connors gives him the opportunity to work together and asks if he wants to come to the lab after school every day. Peter agrees, unaware that this decision is about to change his life forever. That night, Dr. Kurt Connors studies the completed algorithm and is filled with excitement. To him, this is no longer just science, it is hope. He looks at his missing arm and realizes that this breakthrough could finally help him regenerate it. The next day at school, Flash is once again bullying another student. This time Peter steps in, but instead of being afraid, something feels different. He takes Flash's basketball and challenges him, saying, "If you want it, come get it." Flash tries, but Peter's speed and reflexes are now on a different level. He moves the ball so fast that Flash can't even touch it. The whole class begins to laugh as Peter humiliates him effortlessly. When Flash tries again, Peter sticks the ball to his hand using his new power. Angry, Flash lunges at him, but Peter jumps high into the air and dunks the ball straight into the rim, breaking it completely. This display of action gets Peter into trouble and he is punished. Uncle Ben is called to the school and he is clearly disappointed. On the way home, Ben scolds Peter, asking if humiliating someone made him feel better. Peter defends himself, saying Flash deserved it because he always bullies others. But Uncle Ben reminds him that his actions have consequences. He even had to change his work shift because of this. He tells Peter that since he will be working late, Peter must go pick up Aunt May that evening. Afterward, Gwen approaches Peter and checks on his situation. He tells her it was just a punishment, nothing serious, and the two share a quiet moment. After school, Peter begins testing his powers at home, checking his strength, agility, and wall climbing ability. For the first time, he feels confident, even happy. Shortly after, Peter visits Dr. Connors' lab. Connors explains how lizards have the ability to regenerate lost limbs and how their DNA can be used to heal human wounds. He asks Peter to enter the decay rate algorithm into the system. As soon as Peter does so, they witness an unbelievable thing. A lab mouse begins to regenerate its lost leg in real time. But Connors is amazed. For the first time, their experiment is successful. He thanks Peter, knowing that this discovery could change everything. But when Peter returns home, things turn serious. Uncle Ben is angry because Peter did not go pick up Aunt May as promised. He tells Peter he must apologize, and although Aunt May has forgiven him, Ben continues the conversation. He reminds Peter that his father believed in responsibility, that if you have the ability to help others, then it is your duty. Peter, still emotional, shouts back. He says it's easy to talk about responsibility, but his father should have stayed and taught him those things himself. Heartbroken and angry, Peter rushes out of the house. Uncle Ben worriedly goes out to find him. Meanwhile, Peter stops at a convenience store to buy a drink, but he doesn't have enough money. The rude cashier refuses and tells him to leave. Just then, a thief enters the store and knocks things over. While the cashier is distracted, the thief grabs cash from the register and runs out. Peter sees everything, but does nothing. The cashier rushes out and pleads with Peter to stop the thief, but Peter coldly replies, "That's not my job," and walks away. A few minutes later, chaos breaks out. The thief runs down the street but slips and drops his gun. Uncle Ben arrives at the scene and tries to stop him. In the sudden struggle, the gun goes off. The gunshot echoes. Peter hears it and rushes toward the sound, only to see Uncle Ben lying on the ground. Time seems to stand still. Peter kneels down to hold his uncle, filled with shock and grief. The weight of what just happened presses down on him, and in that moment, everything changes. After Uncle Ben's death, Aunt May is completely devastated. As the police begin to investigate and create a sketch of the suspect, they announce that posters will be distributed throughout the city so the killer can be found. Peter takes one of those posters, and the police officer tells him an important detail. The suspect has a star tattoo on his left hand. Peter is desperate. Now he has lost both his parents and his uncle. That night, after making sure Aunt May is asleep, he quietly leaves the house, determined to find the one responsible. Soon, he spots someone who looks like the killer and attacks him in a rage. But things quickly spiral out of control when the guy's accomplices jump in and start chasing Peter. Using his new abilities, Peter escapes and climbs onto a roof. There, he finds the same man again and hangs him upside down from the roof. But when he checks his left hand, there is no star tattoo. But realizing he caught the wrong person, Peter pulls him up and lets him go. As he is leaving, he suddenly falls into a wrestling ring below, where a group of criminals warns him that they have seen his face, and next time, he won't be so lucky. While looking around, Peter notices a mask lying nearby. At that moment, an idea is sparked. He goes home to sketch a design and handcrafts his own mask. Shortly after, he watches a news report about Oscorp's bioengineered spider cable strong enough to pull an entire airplane. That prompts him to build web shooting devices. After many tests, he finally succeeds. He designs a full suit to match, and just like that, Peter Parker becomes Spider-Man. That same night, he stops a car thief with his new powers. He plays with him a bit, testing his abilities, but when he checks the thief's hand, again no tattoo. Just then, the police arrive. They misunderstand the situation and begin firing at Spider-Man. Peter quickly disarms one of the officers and escapes. As the entire police force begins to chase him, despite their best efforts, they cannot catch him. When Peter returns home, Aunt May sees the bruises on his face and becomes worried. She asks where he has been and who did this to him, but Peter stays silent. And she gently tells him an important thing. If you want to keep a secret, it always comes with a price. There's always someone who has to pay for it, either you or the one you love. Those words linger in Peter's mind as he walks back to his room. Meanwhile, Dr. Connors informs Rajit Ratha that the formula finally worked. The lab mouse successfully regrew its leg. But Ratha pushes him further, demanding immediate human trials. Connors refuses, saying the research is not yet ready. Ratha suggests testing on people without their consent, starting with hospital patients. Shocked, Connors firmly rejects this idea. Ratha then reminds him that Richard Parker once said the same thing and warns him to remember what happened to Richard. When Connors still refuses, Ratha fires him and orders him to leave Oscorp by morning, crushing his hope of restoring his arm. And back to Peter's side, life goes on. On the way home from college, Gwen approaches him and invites him to dinner. Clearly, she has started to like him. Connors is desperate and devastated, staring at his missing arm. Having no other choice, he makes a dangerous decision. He injects the formula into himself. Immediately, unbearable pain hits as his body begins to change. Meanwhile, Peter sneaks into Gwen's house through the window and brings flowers for her, but they are withered, so he clumsily hides them. Just then, Gwen's father, Captain George Stacy, a policeman, walks in. Peter nervously introduces himself. At the same time, Connors notices an unbelievable thing. His missing arm has completely regenerated. Filled with excitement, he calls Rajit Ratha, but learns he is on his way to another hospital. Connors rushes out to stop him, but now the side effects of the formula are beginning to take over. After dinner, Peter steps outside with Gwen. Trying to talk to her, he wants to tell her the truth that he is Spider-Man, but he can't say it. His behavior seems strange to Gwen and she starts to walk away. At that moment, Peter instinctively uses spider silk to stop her, and that's when Gwen realizes the truth. Peter is Spider-Man. At the same time, Dr. Connors has completely transformed into a giant lizard creature. He is on a bridge, desperately searching for Rajit Ratha, the man he blames for everything that has happened to him. In his rage, Connors begins throwing cars off the bridge. Peter arrives just in time and uses his webs to stop the falling vehicles, saving countless lives. But Connors finally finds Ratha and attacks his car, throwing it off the bridge. But once again, Peter saves him. As the formula begins to wear off, Connors weakens and Peter tries to catch him. But then Peter notices something else. A child trapped inside a car that is hanging precariously. Without hesitation, he rushes to save the child and brings him back to his father safely. Grateful and moved, the man asks Peter who he is, and Peter simply replies, "I am Spider-Man." Afterward, Peter returns home while Connors transforms back into normal human form. When Peter visits Connors' lab, he finds it completely empty, except for a single injection of the formula. Just then, Connors appears and tells Peter that he has given the entire staff a week off because he is starting a new project. He leaves with suspicious action. And as Peter prepares to leave, he notices a shocking thing. The lab mouse they had tested has completely turned into a lizard. At that moment, Peter realizes the truth. The formula is unstable, and Connors has become something dangerous. On the way back, Peter notices dozens of lizards crawling through the sewer system in one direction. He follows them underground and waits. Meanwhile, Connors has secretly set up a lab in the sewer and injects himself again, turning back into the lizard. But a brutal fight begins between Spider-Man and the lizard. Connors is now much stronger, easily overpowering Peter and severely wounding him. Both fall into the water, damaging Peter's web shooters. Having no other choice, Peter escapes through a narrow pipe. When Connors returns, he finds Peter's camera labeled with Peter Parker's name. At that moment, he realizes the true identity of Spider-Man. Badly injured, Peter goes to Gwen's house. Seeing him hurt, Gwen breaks down and she treats his wounds. Afterward, the two share a quiet moment together, growing closer. Meanwhile, Connors, who is now back in human form, makes a terrible decision. He will fully embrace his transformation and turn everyone into lizards, believing it will eliminate all weaknesses in the world. He goes to Peter's school to find him. Chaos erupts as students flee in panic. Connors attacks Peter, trying to kill him. Amidst the chaos, Peter spots his bag, inside of which is the suit. He quickly grabs it, changes, and faces Connors as Spider-Man once again. Their fight becomes intense. Peter tries to trap Connors with webs, but it doesn't hold for long. Connors breaks free, and the battle continues. Finally, Peter is knocked aside, and when he stands up, Connors is gone. Peter chases him into the tunnels, where he calls Gwen and urgently tells her to go to Oscorp to create an antidote. Gwen immediately goes there. Meanwhile, Peter discovers Connors' entire plan. He intends to use a giant dispersal device at Oscorp to turn his formula into gas and release it across the city, turning everyone into lizards. Realizing the danger, Peter tries to call Gwen again, but she doesn't answer. Having no more time, Spider-Man rushes toward Oscorp to stop him. At the same time, Captain Stacy orders his entire force to arrest Spider-Man, while also preparing to stop the lizard. And as Dr. Connors moves toward Oscorp, police officers try to stop him on the way, but Connors attacks them with his chemical gas. One by one, the officers begin to turn into lizard-like creatures. Meanwhile, Peter is on his way to Oscorp, but Captain Stacy and his team have blocked him. Peter fights back, but Stacy points a gun at him. At that moment, Peter takes off his mask, revealing his identity. Stacy is shocked. Peter quickly explains that Dr. Connors is heading to Oscorp and Gwen is in danger. He emphasizes that only he can save her. Stacy hesitates, but before Peter can leave, an officer fires a shot, hitting Peter in the leg. Wounded but persistent, Peter continues to move forward. Just as she has finished, Dr. Connors appears to take the dispersal device. Gwen tries to stop him, but Connors ignores her and leaves with the machine. Now, everything is at risk. A news spreads across the city that Spider-Man is injured and might not reach Oscorp in time. The man with the child Peter saved earlier sees this on TV. Wanting to repay him, he gathers his colleagues and adjusts the direction of all the cranes in the city, lining them up into a path across the skyline. Peter sees this incredible support and pushes forward, swinging through the cranes toward Oscorp. At Oscorp, Gwen prepares to go help Spider-Man, but her father arrives and stops her. He tells her to go home. Gwen refuses, but Stacy reveals that he knows Peter is Spider-Man. He takes the antidote from her and promises that he will help. Inside Oscorp, Dr. Connors activates the machine, releasing the serum into the air. Peter finally arrives and a brutal fight begins. Connors overpowers Peter, destroying the web shooters and nearly killing him. Just in time, Captain Stacy joins the fight. Together they face Connors. Stacy gives Peter the antidote and tells him to end this. He will hold off Connors. Peter climbs the tower, while below Connors recovers and severely wounds Stacy. Then, he rushes to stop Peter, but he is too late. Peter replaces the serum with the antidote and the machine disperses it across the city. The antidote spreads through the air, reversing the transformations. Connors turns back into a human. Peter rushes back to Captain Stacy, but he is fatally wounded. With his last breath, Stacy tells Peter, "I was wrong about you. This city needs you." He gives Peter the mask and makes him promise one thing: stay away from Gwen, to keep her safe. Peter heartbrokenly agrees. Captain Stacy passes away and Connors is later arrested. At Stacy's funeral, Peter observes from afar. Gwen senses him, but he stays hidden. Later, Gwen goes to Peter's house, but Peter tells her they can't be together anymore. Gwen understands the truth. Peter is keeping the promise to her father. She leaves and they stop talking. But deep down, Peter knows he can't stay away from her forever. Later, he meets Gwen again and says softly, "There are promises that are born to be broken." They reconnect, and now Peter fully embraces his destiny, becoming the Spider-Man who protects the city from danger. If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notification bell to watch the latest videos from me. Thank you, everyone.